Okay, today we're going to learn how to make a PDF into a fillable PDF. This is a request that was made by one of my subscribers, and I felt like it was a great tutorial to make because if you do sell planners or PDFs, having a fillable option for your buyers really is a great selling point for you, for them, mainly because a lot of people like to do things digitally these days, and having that option is great. So just to give you an idea of what exactly a fillable PDF is, this PDF here is one of my, it's an end-of-life planner that I have on my shop. And this is something that is, I felt was a great option to have a fillable PDF because this information in the planner does change. And being able to not have to print it every single time you need to update your information was really great for my buyers. They wanted to be able to just update it digitally, print it when they needed it. So having a fillable PDF basically allows you to type in the information that you need. And this thing is, I think, 80 some pages, and every single page has that fillable option on there. And so all the information they need to update, it can just be done with just a click of the mouse. So it's a great option to have. It is not something that usually PDFs, you can upload a PDF and alter the text and do things like that in different programs, but this is just easier for your buyer to just have it ready to go. They don't have to do anything other than putting in their information. Now, the program that I'm using is Adobe. It is something that you have to have a subscription to. There are free versions to make fillable PDFs through other programs. There are free versions out there. I like to use Adobe mainly because I feel like it has more options than the free versions, and so this is why I'm showing you on Adobe. Now, even though it's done in Adobe, the information actually is pretty transferable. You can pretty much have a lot of the same things that are, depending on whatever program you're using, it's generally the same information. So regardless of what you're using, this is going to be a good tutorial for you if you want to learn how to make a fillable PDF. Okay, so whatever file you're going to use, you're going to click on this. It should open up automatically in your Adobe, depending on, if that's whatever form you're using or program you're using. Mine's Adobe, so it automatically opens up. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go over to Tools, and you're going to go to Prepare Form. This pops up some options for you. This here has an auto detection that's already on. This is something I like to use because it saves me a lot of time. And I'll show you exactly what it does in just a minute. You can, if you are very particular about everything being titled and named in just the exact format and the size and everything you want to do, I would leave it off and do it yourself. But if you have a big planner to fill, having this on will save you a lot of time. And I'll show you what I mean. So you go to Start, and it's already populating all the different fields here. So everything that you would normally fill out by hand would be considered a field. So this line, you're supposed to put your name. So this is considered a field. And Adobe recognized this as a field, and so they automatically put in a fillable field for you. And they accurately named it name. So they're pretty intuitive about whether or not, or on how to name some of these fields. And if you go through, I have quite a few pages to this planner. I have 9 pages. So if you go through, you can see that it automatically populated quite a bit of things for me. It did not auto-populate everything. I don't know why it does and doesn't, but that's just the way it is. So we're going to go ahead and go through each of the pages so I can show you how to populate these, either manually or to just kind of adjust what Adobe didn't do correctly. And just to start off, so we've got name here, and I want to show you a neat trick that Adobe does. I don't know how many other programs do this, but if you have this one, so this is titled name, and if you go to the next page, this one also has a field that is supposed to have your name filled out here. Adobe went ahead and picked this up, and it says name 2. Now, if they had kept it just plain name with no number on the other side of it, then whatever I put in here, so if you were to go to preview and you would have put in my name, Kimberly, then if this field was named just name and this field was named just name, then it would automatically populate whatever I put in the first field. So I typed in Kimberly, it would automatically populate on all the fields that were named with the title name. But because it had a different title, because its title name was name, and then the next one was name 2, and the next one's name 3, it does not automatically populate. This is a good option to have. There are some fields, there are some PDFs that you want, whatever you type in one particular box, you want it to automatically populate all those boxes with that name to whatever was typed in. And that's a great feature to have. So this is not a time that I would be using that. So I want to make sure all my name fields are different. I really hope that made sense. It makes sense in my head. It doesn't always mean it's going to come out. So if it does not make sense, please, please, please ask in the comments below, and I will try to clarify a little bit better for you. So I wanted to kind of show you, this was the very first field we're working on. If you right click on the field, you can go to properties and you can change everything up. So I could change the field name. I could change the appearance of it. So we can change the font, we can change the colors, we can change the size. Another option that I use often is for names, I usually center them. I like to center them. You might not center them, and that's totally fine. So I like to keep things either flush left or center, depending on what we're doing. Another thing that I like to change would be whether I allow multi-lines or not. So if this is just going to be the name, I'd leave it a single space line, but further down in my PDF, I might have a space that you would type in several lines worth of text. So then I would change that to a multi-line, which would now, if you see here, hold on. So if I have multi-line selected, now I can add more lines below, where I would not be able to add that if I had not selected the multi-line. So if you're going to do a paragraph format, multi-line is what you want to make sure that this is selected out, but I'm not. So I'm going to keep it as one line, and it just makes it into one line. So those are your options. Another thing to keep in mind, I do love this preview button because it allows me to really see how it's going to show up for my buyers. So that's a big thing for me. I don't want someone to buy this, start filling it in, and think, oh my goodness, this is driving me nuts because the spacing is all crazy. It's not how I would like my documents to look like. So I like to preview everything to make sure this is turning out the way I would want it to turn out. So this is something that might bother you, because if you see there's such a huge gap between the name and the line. So I would use my click on this field, use my down button, and I would just bring it down to just below the line here. That's something you could do. You could leave it. It's totally up to you, but that is an option. Now, while I'm in preview, I'm just going to go ahead and clear this out because I want to make sure that doesn't show up when I save it. Now, moving on, this is a field, but Adobe did not recognize it as a field, and that's totally fine. Just add it in. So you're going to go up to your text box right here, and it automatically kind of formats a size for you. So you just line it up where you want it. You could line it up below the line, like the one above. I usually start them off right above the line, and then I go in and edit them in preview if I feel like I need to. It just saves a lot more time to kind of keep it uniform when you automatically populate it, manually put them in. So this here does not know what this field's name is. So it just does a random text. This one will say text 1. If you go to put another one in below, it will say text 2. And I just kind of reshape it right there. And every time you add one more in, it'll automatically populate it with the next number. Okay, you can go back in and change it if you want it to have, you want to have a name. I really don't get very particular about the field names, except for the fact making sure that they're not the same as another field. But I'm not very particular about it. Some people might be, and then when you go into edit it here, you know, having it knowing exactly what the name is helpful. But I don't worry about it too much. I just don't have the time to sit there and put it all in. Like this would be my school supply list, so I could do school supply 1, school supply 2, school supply 3, whatever I want to do. But I just let Adobe automatically populate the numbers. I'm not too worried about it. Now this here is supposed to be a check mark box, and it's not. If you click into here, it's actually a text box. So you can see right here, it shows that that's a text box, and it's not supposed to be. So Adobe did not catch that one and intuitively tell it what it's supposed to be, which is fine. I can just add it in really quickly. It's not that big of a deal. Okay, so now that I've deleted these checkboxes here, then I can go up to here, and this is our checkbox field tab, whatever you want to call it. So it automatically populates it pretty much the same size as what I already have here. So that's awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and just click it right here. It automatically populates as checkbox number 4, which is fine. I don't want to change the name. I could change anything I want on it, size, color, whatever, but for the sake of the video, I'm just going to leave it. And then I just do that again, just kind of letting it populate itself. If I copy and paste it, like I have done in lots of different things when I design my printables, then it again will keep the same name as the one I copied and pasted, and we don't want that. I don't want these check marks to be populated when another field is checked it. So these need to be individualized. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I'm not going to do all of these. You get the idea. That's how you do a checkbox one. But I would make fields for all of these. And then going down to the next one, it automatically has the name one here. If you want to change anything on here, you can. I would just for the sake of uniformity, I would make sure this one stayed center. And then all the rest of these normally actually automatically flush left populate, but for the names I like to keep them center, but that's just a preference. So if you notice here that Adobe created a field for this, and this is actually not a field. So I would just right click and delete it, and no big deal. So this is just to have, to me, this is just something that I would normally have for my kids if this is an after school checklist. So I went ahead and put in something that I feel like all the kids would probably use. And these are just different lists, but down here I have blanks for other chores that I haven't listed that maybe are more personalized to that particular family who buys this planner. So they would be able to fill this in. So it's automatically populated as a field. So I would leave this. This is nothing that I would change probably except for color, font, or whatever if I wanted to change that, but I'm not going to. This here is a text box. This is more of a checkbox type thing. So if you go in here and you do the preview, this allows you to type in something. So I would type in done, but I really don't like that. To me, I would make this into a checkbox. So I would go back to my edit and I would delete these fields because these are text fields and I don't want text fields. I want them to be check marks. So I would do this, and you don't have to make them this size because look what happens when you make them this size. It's just a huge, well, that looks good. I'd probably keep it that size. So this is something to that I would do is I would just make these all check boxes. And this is, you know, a little bit more tedious because you have to resize all of them. But you don't have to. You can leave it just center right here in the checkbox, but look what happens. It's all right. It's just I kind of like the bigger text box check marks. But this is why you have the preview button, to show you what this is going to look like. So this is what I would do. I would just kind of play around and see what I liked. Because remember, this is, you know, your buyer is going to want something that looks good. And this is, you want this to look as good as possible. So I would delete all my text boxes on this one and just add in check marks. So to go back to the beginning where you upload your PDF into Adobe and it gives you the option to auto populate, that's that's a personal decision whether or not you want to let Adobe auto-populate, or knowing that you might have to go in and redo things like delete all these fields because they're not the right ones. But that's up to you. That's, to me, it saves more time than it does if I didn't do it, if I had to do everything manually. Because sometimes they do get it right. Sometimes, like name, here, this is exactly what I would have done. So this is something that, it does save me time. I don't have to put in these texts, and some of the other ones, they auto-populate accurately as well. So I do like to have it, I do like Adobe to try and do the fields themselves, and then I just go in and tweak them. So this is not a field, so I would delete it. And these obviously are just the same as the page above. So we would delete all these and add in text boxes. So this is a little different. This is not a text box, or this is not a field, so I would delete that. This is supposed to be a first day of, let's say, 7th grade. So when you go to type in something like this is not going to look as fancy as if you had printed this off and written it by hand, because if you notice, this little ribbon goes like this, and it probably would look better if the text did as well, but we can only do so much. So I would make this a text field. This would be a text field. Now, if you notice, they completely misread this one, so I would delete this. My name is, I would make this a text box, and because this text box is actually pretty large, I would right click on it and make it multi-line, so that we can put their name, first name, middle name, last name. It would look better as stacked than it would all one line. So that's what I would do for this particular field. This would be a field. This would be a field. You could do a regular text field for this, but let me show you an option that you can do. That would be, that would be this one. You want to do a drop-down menu, which is something that you can do for lots of different fields. This would be, you would go into properties, and if you go over to options, it allows you to add in a bunch of different things. So if you go, let's say we're going to just add 1, add 2, and add 3. So obviously these would be numbers that would be appropriate for school age children, but just to give you an idea, so you add in, let's say, however many numbers you want, and then this is what it would show up as. So you would select whatever number you wanted from the drop-down menu. So that would be an option. You could do that. This is just to kind of show you that this is something that Adobe does offer. Most likely, though, I would probably keep this as a field text, text field instead of a drop-down menu for this particular thing. This would probably just stay text. So this is just to give you just an idea of what options are available. This here is a doodle page, so I don't think this would be something that you would field up unless you want to add like a picture or something like that. You could. Then this is one I really wanted to show you. So this one is a lot of fun. I like to add these into my planners a lot when I can, but this is I got this from up here. It's basically you're adding a date field, and if you can field it or resize it, and if you go into preview, it allows you to have the drop down menu, and you can just pick whichever one you want. And when you go into your edit field, so if you right click on here and go to properties and you go to format, it shows you all the different ways you can format how you want this to show up for your date. So you can do just the month and a date. You can have this look like that. You can have it look like, well, I didn't put in a year, so it won't look like that. But so it would do all these different things for you, and you can make them custom. There's lots of different ways. So this is how you would format that. Okay, so now we're down to this page, and here you have your weekly calendar. So this is one big text field that they've already intuitively filled out for me. And it's exactly the way I would have filled it out myself. So it is a multi-line field. You can make sure that it is by just right-clicking and going to your options and seeing that it's check marked there. So this allows you to put in lots of information instead of just one line of information. And then this one here, this would be a regular text field. They already made this whole line here as a text field, and that's not what we want. These need to be individualized. So I would delete the text field they had set up. I would, so you can do a date text field for this particular thing here, and then just go into properties and make sure that it's only showing the letter or the number for that particular date. That is something that I've done before, and I'll show you. So you go into properties, and then you go into format, and then you would just do the month and the day. You could do that. This is what it would look like. Let's say you want this to be the 27th. So it would show up like this. It's not the best looking option there is, so I usually don't use it for this particular situation. And so I would just do a regular text box, and then I just go in and add the numbers myself, or whoever would buy this would add the numbers themselves. The only issue you're going to run into with a calendar like this, and let me show you, is if you add in a regular text box right here, this will be your numbers that you're going to go in and add. When you go to add another text box, you're going to want to make sure that this text box is below and not overlapping your other text box. Because if you wanted to make sure it goes all the way to the top here, then you pretty much overrode this little number text box here. So you just want to make sure you're really only going to have this much fillable space when you're doing a calendar. And that's okay. I think that's enough space. So I would just make sure you're not overlapping your text boxes or your fields here. And then I would make this into a multi-line field. So that way you can type in as much information as you wanted. Okay. So that's what I would say here. Just kind of add that in. And then pretty much I would make these into check boxes. I don't think they're check boxes. I think these are text boxes. Let's look. Yep, they're text boxes. So I would have to delete these. I would make sure this is a text box because this is the name of the week, I think is what we want to make sure add in. And you know how to do all of this. These are all text boxes. So none of these got populated as text fields, and that's fine. You can just add it in really quick. These, I would add these as a text or as a field, enter these in, because then you're going to want to type the name in and they can print these off. So that's it. That's my 9 pages. This is what I would do if I was filling this planner in as a fillable PDF. And then at the end, after I was all done with it, I'd go back up and I'd hit preview, and I would work every single one of these. It takes time, but I want my planners to look good. I want them to, when my buyers go to enter this information, and I don't want them getting annoyed because everything is so wonky. I want everything to look good and uniform all the way around. So, I would check and also make sure that everything works the way it's supposed to. I would make sure, my text boxes, they were all check marks and not, text boxes, they were all check marked. Another thing you can do that I did not mention, and I do want to mention this really quickly, is that if you want to make sure these are all lined up properly, because you can tell in the preview they were a little off kilter, then what you could do, just like you would use in PowerPoint, you would click on it, I would hold the shift button, and I would select these. And then this over here allows you to line everything up. So I would align everything to the left or center or whatever. And this is a great tool, because nothing annoys me more than to see a whole line full of check boxes and they're all different. They're all wonky. None of them line up. That's a big deal to me when I'm doing a fillable PDF. But that's just an extra bonus, I guess, to kind of walk you through. I know this was a lot to take in, and there is so much more that you can add here. You can do signature boxes. You can do, I think this is what, a barcode. There's so many options, but I kind of wanted to give you a general idea, a walkthrough of how I would make my planners fillable. And then when you're all done, you've already previewed everything looks good, then you would just close that out and you would go and save it as, and I make sure that when I go to save it that it says it's a fillable PDF and everything, so you keep all your files organized properly. And that's it. That's pretty self-explanatory how I would make mine. And if you were using a free program and not using Adobe, then in most cases, this is going to be about the same type of information you would have there. So hopefully this was helpful to you. I hope everything made sense. I know I kind of went through it fast. If it's something did not make sense to you, write your question out and say, this didn't make sense, and I will do my best to clarify it for you, because this is a really great asset to have as a seller, or even just for personal use. And I really hope, I want this to make sense. I want this to be valuable to you. So let me know if you have any questions, and if you have any other videos that you would like me to do some walkthroughs for you, just let me know. This is great for me to show you, give you what you need and what you're looking for, and hopefully it's beneficial to you as well. So until then, I'll see you in the next video.